Hi there, and welcome back to the CKM Red Rugby League channel, or the Red Star channel, wherever you are watching us from. We are back with another jam-packed show ahead of a huge weekend of rugby league. Joining me, as ever, is Luke Jobson to take you through all the games from the Balkan Super League. We got four teams in action from 3 countries this weekend. Very excited to get into it. Luke, how are you going, mate?
Yeah, very good, mate. Like you said, a jam-packed weekend coming up this week. A couple of absolute rip snorters of a game to kick us off in the semi-finals. I mean, we've got really probably the up-and-coming team of the year in South Region who are on a bit of a roll. They've had some really good results recently, going up against Partizan, and then, of course, Red Star Belgrade coming up against Lokomotiv Sofia. And, that should be an interesting one, but it's not. I hate to say it, it's interesting, but maybe not necessarily for the right reasons. But we'll get into that. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very much back on my feet now after a brief run-in with COVID, but we're all good. We're still here. So I'm very much looking forward to picking this one apart. As I said, 4 teams, 3 nations in action all across the Balkans. You got Lokomotiv, Sofia from Bulgaria. You got the South region from Montenegro, and then of course you got the 2 resident Serbian powerhouses in Partizan 1953, and of course Red Star Belgrade RLK. I think we should probably address the elephant in the room here, which for anyone that joined us for our Balkan Super League broadcast just 2 weeks ago now. 62nd minute of the game, another Radnicki Novi Beograd penalty. Tirana, the Albanian side, doing it tough on their line, and all of a sudden a scuffle breaks out. Some punches thrown from the bottom. A bit of knee action involved in there. Not a pretty sight. At which point, then the players were called away. The referee was dealing with protests from both sides. Both teams were very animated. And then the news broke some 5 minutes later that Tirana had walked from the field and called the game because they believed that the game was not being refereed in the fairest of manners based on the penalty count, which the referee Lazar Zivkovic took exception to, filed it to the board. Obviously, myself and you were on the broadcast at the time when this all is happening, where we're getting the news as it's all coming through, and then we basically find that the game has been abandoned in the 62nd minute of a scoreline of 6 points to 4 in favour of Radnicki Novi Beograd. And then, we wait for the political fallout of it. It goes back to the Balkan Super League board, and they found that both teams were in the wrong on this one and opted to remove both teams from the 2021 competition and replace them with Lokomotiv Sofia. There is an official statement from the Balkan Super League as to how they formulated that decision, which I will read you now. Balkan Super League can confirm that Lokomotiv Sofia will play in the semi-finals against Red Star instead of Radnicki Novi Beograd. The match between Red Star and Lokomotiv will be played on Sunday, November 7th in Belgrade, which we will talk about a little later. This decision was made because the objection of Lokomotiv from October 21st to the registration of the match against Radnicki Novi Beograd was accepted. Originally, Lokomotiv versus Radnicki Novi Beograd was registered with the result of 0-0. This result enabled Radnicki to play the quarter-final match against Tirana as the second-place team in the league. According to the schedule, the match in Sofia was planned to be played July 3rd, 4th of this year, but since then it has been moved 3 times at the request of Radnicki Novi Beograd. In the end, playing this match became impossible because Serbia reached the COVID-19 EU red list, so its citizens were banned from entering Bulgaria. Therefore, the match was entered and registered with the result 0-0 on October 15th, 2021, and the scheduled match between Radnicki and Tirana on October 29th. The director of the Balkan Super League accepted Lokomotiv's objection and registered the match against Belgrade with an official result of 18-0 in favour of the club Sofia. Based on that decision, Lokomotiv will replace Radnicki Novi Beograd. in the semi-final against Red Star. So basically, to cut a long story short, initially a match was due to be played. The fixture couldn't be fulfilled. Then there came an opportunity for it to be fulfilled, and Radnicki Novi Beograd declined it, which at that point, then the match becomes a forfeit, which means that as the table stood, which we do have available here, the table itself stood with Lokomotiv Sofia down in third place and Radnicki Novi Beograd in second place. So Radnicki Novi Belgrade were in second place on 4 points. Lokomotiv Sofia were on 3 points. So you deduct the 2 points from Radnicki Novi Belgrade and give them to Lokomotiv Sofia, puts them on 4 points, and Radnicki New Belgrade down onto 3 points, putting them into second, which means that they should have been the team to play the South region in Bar Tivat. So that is where that decision has come from.
It was it's a lot to take. It's a lot to think about, a lot to go through. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's discuss the game first, and then we'll go into everything regarding COVID restrictions and all of that. It's tough because we pointed it out in the broadcast. Both teams came in and very specifically and very adamantly said, we want a clean, fair contest. We have respect for each other as teams and as rugby players, and we want a tough 80 minutes. A tough, fair 80 minutes. Which, that's ringing some alarm bells. Now, obviously, I mean, we're not going to give you the history lesson. If you're very invested, I'm sure you can go and figure it out. But Albania and Serbia not always have been the best of friends, going back hundreds of years. And we'll leave it at that. But you would think that wouldn't have a determining factor on a rugby league game. It was a very physical game. Errors all throughout, but physical, tough, nitty-gritty. Tirana scored first. They only had 16. We thought that was needed. Radnicki Novi Beograd hit back just before halftime, made it 6-4. Look, it's tough because you never want to see a game end like how it did. It was a really ugly way for that game to end. But there are much better ways to handle how you're going to go through a game and potentially finish a game than walking off the field. Now, the two players that got yellow carded and sent for 10 both deserved it. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that Tirana had to walk off the field. They, despite what they thought, the referee, I thought for the most part, had a relatively good game. A couple of decisions both ways that were given that maybe shouldn't have, and a couple of decisions both ways that probably should have been given that weren't. But it was both ways. It was a fair fight. It sucks as to how that ended. That said, Mazel tov to the board for standing up and being like, well, if Lokomotiv Sofia were so eager to play this game and the opportunity was there, COVID restrictions aside, because obviously that was a major factor in a couple of those games that could have been played. But if Radnicki Novi Beograd said, we just don't want to play, and it was listed as a forfeit, then, credit to the Balkan Super League for acknowledging the protest it would have been of the result. And it sucks that it's got to that point, but this is a huge chance for Lokomotiv Sofia to come into Belgrade against a Red Star Belgrade side who are chomping at the bit, having not played games, or having not played since the Dortmund game. And it's going to be a massive chance for Lokomotiv Sofia to come into Belgrade, to come up against the big boys of Serbia, against an NRL quality coach in Eddie Pettyborn, to then really try and make their stamp. And we make no secret, Belgrade are the probable obvious favourites here. But I think if Sofia can come out firing, they can absolutely, at the bare least, make a game of it.
Yeah, and we'll talk briefly on the Albanians. And Aldo Tello joined Colin live on CKM just about a week ago now to express his displeasure. He said that that's not what the Albanian side are about, and that they want to take on Red Star in Serbia at some point, or they want to host Red Star up in Tirana. And have that game that they were looking forward to. He made no secret of their ambitions to play against Red Star, and that's the game that all his players had their eyes on. And unfortunately, ill discipline cost them that place. But the Albanian board have doubled down. They've said that that's not in the spirit of their game, and credit to them. They're going to go away. They're going to rebuild, and they're going to right the wrongs of that game and come back stronger. So I think we'll leave them alone now, and we will get to a fixture that is to go ahead, and that is Saturday's game, and it is Partizan of Serbia taking on the South region of Montenegro. This one being played at FC Arsenal Tivat Stadium on the coast of the beautiful country of Montenegro. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. These two sides have met before. Partizan running 72-8 winners in that one. Interestingly, though, South region hit the straps first. They kicked a penalty in the early minutes, put themselves 2-0 up, which will have no doubt shook Partizan a little bit, which means they've had to earn that field position to get down to that place to be able to kick those points. And this is a South region side who have come away and got a few results, as you said. I'll let you go through some of their recent results, but as you said, they've been on a bit of a roll there.
Yeah, very much so. Going back their you're making me do math here. Last 3 games, it was a 50-18 win against Radnicki, Novi, Beograd. Obviously, we spoke about the tough nitty game that they play. Well, the South region are no different. They stuck up and then some. They then got the 24-12 win against Lokomotiv Sofia. Again, they come up against Red Star this week. That's a pretty strong indicator of where the South region are. Again, 72-8, tough result, but we should keep in mind that this is a South region side that's been around for a year, 2 years. If that. Partizan have been around. They've got the academy set up. They've got the players coming through. They have their structure. South region have made no secret of it this year. They're building, and they're building really quickly. You can see that stark improvement from the start of the Serbian Super League throughout to now. I mean, looking at Partizan, they had that 72-8 win. They then got absolutely thumped by Red Star in the Eternal Derby, 40-4. And then took it out on Radnicki Nice with the 76-6 thrashing of their own. So it's a Partizan side who want to, for lack of a better term, use this one as a tune-up. They know what they're going to get out of South region. They know they've got to body up and body quickly. They'll spread wide, and hopefully for Partizan, they'll be thinking they hopefully set up a potential Balkan Super League Eternal Derby.
Yeah, and just to briefly touch on the Serbian Super League, that final is next week. The final of the Balkan Super League will be played in probably February now, just because of fixtures being moved around. We're getting up to the middle of November at this point, and there's a feasible chance of snow in Belgrade, so none of the players would like to be sliding around in the ice. So the Balkan Super League will be played in February, as well as the Super Cup at that point. But as you said, it sets up for another Eternal Derby. You've got the Serbian Super League final next week. Partizan have played more games since the break. They got their game out against Radnicki Nice. Red Star was supposed to play Radnicki Nice just a couple of weeks ago, but that game unfortunately being postponed. So that one was registered as an 18-0 win in favour of Red Star. But this South region side as well played a decent amount of rugby at this point. they've got some big bodies. A lot of their boys come from union clubs in and around the Montenegrin region. As we mentioned there, impressive win against New Belgrade. New Belgrade are a hard, tough side to break down. They're very gritty. They like to get into it. They like to suck you into their game. Won comfortably there, 50 points to 18. South region versus Lokomotiv Sofia, the other team in game 2. 24 points to 12, a bit more of a tight affair, but again, really tough game, really gritty game. Lokomotiv, they've been no rollover, but the South region, if they can get up in Partizan's face early and cause issues, get some of those big bodies rolling through the middle, as we know that they like to do. You know, they've got some exceptional talent. I had my eyes on their fullback for a little while from when watching Red Star play South Region. Good movement out the back, quick player, good rugby brain, knows when to pick and go himself, knows when to put himself in those fields of opportunity and try and break out into back play. But, you know, Partizan are going to have to work hard to keep him quiet. But likewise, South Region are going to have to really D up against this Partizan side who do like to come up the middle. They do like to play that refined structure. But we are seeing that evolution of Partizan where they will slide to those edge 20s and put their big centres through gaps. Oh, I think we've lost.
Hello. Good morning. we popped the mute button. We don't know what's going on. Good Lord. Oh my goodness. I pulled a Colin Claywig there. Love you, Colin. Yeah, we saw earlier in the year when they were taking Red Star to the wood chipper that they have these boys that would just absolutely punch through the middle, gain 15, 20 meters every play. Then once they hit that red zone, it'd be that beautiful ball out the back. Dragan Jankovic was just lights out earlier in the year. He's been lights out for the Serbian side through their Euro B side. That Euro B campaign, he was one of the best. Easily one of the best with that support role out the back. Yeah, he worked incredibly with mind blank. The Red Star center that would come in as a second fullback.
Alexander Djordjevic.
Thank you. That's the one. Yeah, two of the most potent weapons in that Euro B side, and they absolutely just flattened Ukraine, flattened Russia. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for South Region to shut down this Partizan attack. But if they can do it, if they can get in the faces early, if they can force a couple of errors, we've seen what happens when Partizan get frazzled. It's going to be an insane game. Hello, Yanis. Yeah. Nice of you to join us. I'm not sure what you're agreeing to there. Hopefully it's all of it. But yeah, look, I mean, it's hard not to tip Partizan, isn't it? You kind of have to, just based on past form. I'd love to see it not be a 72-8 game. You know, I say it'd be an improvement, like a 50-16, 46-12, something like that. I want to see improvement out of South Region. If they can take it to Partizan in the first 20 minutes, you beauty. You know, from there, Partizan probably run away with it, but I'll be very happy to eat my words if they don't.
Yeah, I agree. I think the South Region will be stronger this time. They've had a bit of time to regroup. Partizan could potentially be guilty of having one eye on the finals next week instead of focusing on their game this week against the South Region. And if they do, they could be prone to a slip up here. It wouldn't surprise me to see some of their players rested potentially ahead of that game through fear of injury. They'll want to put out a strong side in that Red Star game, a game that's, in all honesty, going to be more competitive. But they need to give South Region the respect that they deserve. It's a semi-final at the end of the day, and South Region could come and cause an upset. So I do think that this one will be closer. I think that this one could easily be a 40 points to 16, something like that. This Montenegrin side, they can attack. They attack from deep. They attack with pace. And they've got some big bodies in there as well, so there's going to be plenty of physicality in this one. But yeah, I'm going to say Partizan probably 13 plus on this one.
Yeah, and of course, the only place you can see any of the Balkan Super League, it's not on Fox Sports, you're not on KO, you're not going through Sky or Stan. It's on recast.app. Just search for CKM Red Rugby League. It's not just Balkan Super League stuff. We throw stuff in from up here. There's some original content coming throughout the summer. Just keep your eye on it. But this isn't the only game, Matty, that they're going to see on there this week. You've got Red Star Belgrade against Lokomotiv Sofia. I mean, we've spoken ad nauseum about Lokomotiv and kind of just how they've got here in the first place. But we can talk about Red Star all day. You definitely know more about Lokomotiv Sofia than I do. What are we looking for the Bulgarian side to potentially come to Belgrade and cause an upset?
So I mean, this is a Bulgarian side that's a lot of the national team basically. So we've already seen some of this team in action from the summer campaign where they ran the Serbian under-20s close. Plenty of physicality in that game. I think that game finished up 26 points to 12 in favour of Serbia. You know, they've got some tricky halves. They've got some really good, quick, physical wingers as well. This is a Lokomotiv Sofia side who will have felt hard done by seeing Radnicki Novi Beograd play that game last week and then the game not see itself through, but are now here on merit. And the last thing that they want is to make it this far and then be dumped out again, or to just be told that they're here just because Tirana didn't fulfill their position in the competition. So this is a Lokomotiv Sofia side that's going to come out raring. They're going to be they're going to be very hot on the turf. They're going to be, they're going to be frustrated after a long trip from Bulgaria into central Serbia. The last thing that they're going to want after a long road trip is to travel back and think about building for next year. They'll want to be part of a final next year, and the only way that they're going to do that is by coming away with points against this Red Star side. And to do that, they're going to have to pick apart what are becoming very strongly instilled systems now under Eddie Pettybourne. They're going to have to deal with some physical forwards, some pacey backs that are coming to take the work on, get those exit sets down, and then start to build platforms and really start to turn the screw from there. But, Red Star could be rusty. There's an opportunity there. As we mentioned, the game against Radnicki Nice didn't go ahead, as did the game against Dortmund the previous week. So 2 18-0 recorded victories there for Red Star without touching the field. Last game that they played was against Partizan, that 40 points to 4 win. It's going to be a very, very physical affair. And yeah, Jason Costigan there just commenting as well. Potential ambush. I mean, there's a likelihood. There's a likelihood here. I mean, Lokomotiv Sofia, they're going to have a point to prove. They're going to want to come into this Balkan Super League setup, put themselves into a final, the first Bulgarian team to qualify for a final. And Red Star also need to be watch out and make sure that they're not guilty of having one eye on that final against Partizan next week. Take it one game at a time and make sure that their attitude's good and that they treat this semi-final with the respect it deserves. I mean, this is a Lokomotiv Sofia side that ran up a 62 points to 12 win over Sardus and the Mighty, just a couple months ago. That's an impressive scoreline. It is a Lokomotiv side that got beaten 24 points to 12 by South Region, but it's an improved Lokomotiv Sofia side. And if I had to watch one man, it's going to be the man that joins one of our good friends in Nenad Zuic tomorrow, live on the Red Star channel, in Denis Ivanov. Coming in, he's the Bulgarian number 6 who ran out in the 6 for Sofia as well last time out. So keep your eye on him. He's an experienced player. He's a good ball runner. He likes to read the game, likes to take the game to opposing players. But again, I think defence is going to be the key focus here for Lokomotiv Sofia. Disrupt the Red Star pattern, lock them down, force them to play in the areas of the pitch they don't want to play in, which is going to be that middle third. Keep them in the middle of the pitch, stop them from distributing.
And we should mention before we go talking about Red Star that our old friend there, Jason Costigan, will be on the call for this game alongside Colin Claywig, which you can find on Recast. It's going to be a fantastic game. As for Red Star, like you said, Matty, it's a side that probably does have one eye on an eternal derby, on a Balkan Super League trophy. Would you call it an upset last year?
Definitely. I was upset.
yeah, here we go. But, it's a side that wants to get their hands back on that Balkan Super League trophy. I don't think they've played Lokomotiv Sofia for a hot second now. But like you said, this is a side full of Bulgarian nationals who did take our under-20s close. And there are a good chunk of our guys from Red Star that are in the under-20s. Milutinovic, I believe, who potentially could be on the wing, was one of them.
The Valentino Milovanovic was part of that team, as was Milos Pavlovic, Nikola Mladenovic, Johnny Mladenovic. There was in the 9 as well. There was a few. There was a little bit of Red Star talent on display during that campaign as well. So again, the Bulgarians will be familiar with a few Red Star faces.
They just won't necessarily be familiar with the Eddie Pettyborn way of how Red Star plays. Eddie has, for lack of a better way of saying it, transformed this Red Star team over the past few months. It's coming up kind of to the end of this season, but we could see that progress immediately after he joined the side. The boys were a lot fitter, very strong. Some of them, you could argue, picked up a yard or two of pace. And as a result, we saw 40-4 against Partizan in what was a very tight first 20 minutes, but then Red Star pulled away. It's a Red Star side that hinges on, I wouldn't say, hinges is probably not the right word, but a lot of the spark out of this Red Star side comes from off-the-cuff play. They have their set plays. They've got that set routine. But when you got someone like Stefan Nedeljkovic who can dummy and go, playing a 13, you got he can kick. He can throw that cutout ball out the back to the boys on the edge, or he can just play that short ball. We've seen goodness knows how many times the Red Star have crashed over from close range off the back of someone like a Dortschul or a Partizan sliding away and seeing not Marko Jankovic
and Rajko Trifunovic going through them gaps. Johnny Juric as well. Those slide plays are a strong asset of Red Stars. You see Voja drift to the edges, and when he drifts to the edges, because he's such a talent, he takes players with him, and then it creates opportunities for those players to go through.
It's not only Voja. We've got to talk about Vlada Dedic as well. He was a spark, an absolute spark. Well, the Dedic brothers in general. That combination in the Eurobeat competition was, whew. I mean, that wouldn't have looked out of place in the NRL. Like, just how well those two boys gelled together. I mean, it's no secret that they're related, but just that combination, and then to combine with the likes of Dragan Jankovic out the back, it was quite spectacular to see.
Yeah, coming back to the mentality of Eddie Pettyborn, he's almost instilled Michael Jordan-esque mentality in these players, and I had a really good chat with Vlada Dedic, and I'm sure that he won't mind me telling this story about how he got called up late to the side. He wasn't named in the initial side, but then he was asked to play, and he basically said to everybody, "Watch, I'm going to get man of the match against Russia," and then he did, and people said to him, well, that's a Russia side that's not as good as 2015 Russia. It's not the same Russia side that's caused Serbia problems." And he went, "Okay, watch me get man of the match against the Ukraine. And he ended up scoring 2 tries, having an absolute worldie. And me and him had that conversation, and I checked my phone later that night, and there was a picture of his medal that he just sent me, and he said, "I told you that I'd get man of the match in this one too."
It's just the TikTok of surprise, shout it.
So if Partizan, Lokomotiv, Sofia want any advice, don't tell any of these Red Star boys that they can't do anything. That's the worst thing that you can do. They're motivated by negative mentality of others, and it's a Red Star side that's had to deal with negative perceptions in the past of people, and they stand taller for it, and these boys are now leaning into that, and they are red hot, raring to go. And this is a Lokomotiv Sofia side that is going to have to really work hard to close them down in those gaps, and really make sure that their sliding defense is on point to keep these players out.
Yeah. If Lokomotiv Sofia don't slide, this could get ugly.
It could. And the only place that you can watch that action unfold is, of course, as we mentioned, on Recast.app. Just search for Red Star Rugby League and CKM Red Rugby League. The games will be on there. Both these games will be on there over the weekend. Red Star will be brought to you live, whereas the South Region versus Partizan will be an upload. Keep an eye out for that on Sunday. So if you have nothing planned with your Sunday, definitely make sure that you keep it free and you keep it available to watch these 4 teams in action. I think we are going to wrap it there. We will leave you to enjoy the remainder of your Thursday, but thank you very much for joining us. Luke, thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time, and we will hopefully see you Sunday as Red Star Belgrade RLK take on Lokomotiv Sofia, and Partizan take on the South Region. We will see you then.